With us today here in the flight control room is a gentleman by the name of Tom Erkenswick, a very familiar face and name in operations here in the flight control room. He is one of the visiting vehicle officers whose post is a console in the very back row here in mission control. Tom is one of the experts, of course, in Russian vehicle operations. And Tom is with us today. He is the lead visiting vehicle officer for this Progess activity. Tom, first and foremost, the Progess almost 24 hours into its mission. How are all of its systems operating?
All of the systems are nominal. We had a good launch yesterday, good tests of several of the onboard systems yesterday as well, and 2 rendezvous burns, and all is nominal.
So the Progess, unlike recent Progess and Soyuz vehicles that took a fast track, a one-day, 6 orbit journey to the International Space Station over a 6-hour period. This one is going to prolong its journey, a slow trek to the station with an interim flyby scheduled for Wednesday. What is all that about? Explain this flyby, the rationale for it, and what's involved.
Sure. So this particular Progess has a new rendezvous radar system. It's an upgrade to their Kurs system, which provides the rendezvous radar. And they wanted to do a test of it by flying by station and testing that system interacting with its counterpart system on the station called Kurs Passive. So on Wednesday, the Progess will do a flyby about 1.5 kilometers to the starboard of the station, and they'll turn on both systems, both on the Progess and the station, allow them to interact, record all of that telemetry, and then check it out on the ground. That'll all happen Wednesday. They'll do the checkout of the data overnight and on the day Thursday to make sure they're happy with how it's operating, and then they'll come back and rendezvous again and do the docking on Friday.
The Kurs system has been used year in and year out by the Russians on both their Progess and on their Soyuz manned vehicles. What is the impetus here, the rationale for the Russians moving to an upgraded system?
There are a couple of reasons. The first part is that the parts for the old system are not as easily available anymore because it's been used for a long time. More importantly, by developing a new system, it provides some power savings and some mass savings, which then correlates into additional cargo they can carry up. So what they'll do is they will replace the avionics, and that's what they did in this particular vehicle to test it. They'll replace the avionics box inside the Progess and also several of the antennas on the outside. So when you see video or pictures of the outside of the Progess, you'll notice there are actually only 3 of these Kurs antennas on the outside of the vehicle instead of what used to be 6. That will allow them, in particular with one antenna that's out on the front of the Progess, it used to stick out beyond the docking interface. Now the new antenna no longer does that, so you no longer have to worry about retracting that antenna before docking. So there are several benefits of that type.
So the Progess will fly underneath the station, I presume, at a distance of about 1 statute mile, or as you said, about 1.6 kilometers. Then what? Johannes Kepler takes over and it's all orbital mechanics to bring it back around a couple of days after that?
Actually, it requires a set of maneuvers, and actually the flyby will be about 400 meters below the station and about 1.5 kilometers or 1 statute mile actually to the starboard side of the station. That's just the geometry of the trajectory they use for their flyby. About 3 orbits after that flyby, they'll do a couple of maneuvers to basically stop phasing away from station. That'll put them out about 500 kilometers in front of the station. They'll stay there overnight. They'll do another maneuver the next day to come back towards station and set up for the re-rendezvous and docking on Friday.
And the docking will be to the aft port of the Zvezda service module, once again putting 4 Russian vehicles at the station, keeping not only you but your colleagues busy here at the Johnson Space Center and over at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov. How do you interact with the Russian flight control team over there to make sure that all of your data is synced up for the information that our flight control needs, as well as the Russian flight control team?
Well, as with all of the visiting vehicles, a lot of the work is done pre-flight. So there is a lot of work that's done in advance in order to set up all of our data exchange, what type of reports we need to make to each other to make that overall process work well. In this case, we'll basically have our standard data exchange with our Russian colleagues. We'll talk to them about how well did the test go, how well are their systems working, and basically in this case we'll just do it twice. We'll do it once on Wednesday during the flyby and then again on Friday for the docking itself. So in that case, it's basically just repeating the same process twice.
And Tom, just going back for a second to the expedited rendezvous that has become sort of a staple item now this year through Progess and Soyuz missions. It's the standard 4-orbit, 6-hour approach from launch to docking to the space station, which has a great deal of benefit for the crews on board, particularly for the Soyuz vehicles. the coordination for that, to find that sweet spot, the right day in which to launch a vehicle out of Baikonur so it can make that fast-track rendezvous to the station, how complex is all of that?
It is pretty complex. It involves very detailed planning of the ISS trajectory to support that four-orbit rendezvous, which is done primarily by our topo colleagues and their Russian colleagues in the ballistics team. So yeah, it requires quite a lot of advanced planning to make sure that the ISS trajectory meets all of the requirements in order for the Progress to get there in just 4 orbits, as opposed to 2 days, which was the old standard, or for example, what we're doing with this Progress, where it's going to be 4 days total.
And that 4-orbit rendezvous to the International Space Station supplanted this week by a 4-day rendezvous by the Progress resupply ship to the complex. Tom Erkenswick, Visiting Vehicle Officer, thanks very much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.